You said whatever you want this week, maybe yesterday. You're not easygoing. You're trained. It's what you learned when having preferences felt dangerous, and it worked. That's the problem. Think of it like emotional Wi-Fi. You only connect when everyone else is comfortable first. And now your teen is doing the same thing, watching the room, editing themselves, saying whatever's fine when it clearly isn't. And the first time you see it in your kid, you realize it didn't stop with you. 1. The day you learned to disappear. Nobody sat you down and said, your needs are inconvenient. It was subtler than that. It doesn't require a catastrophic childhood. That's why it's so hard to catch. It just requires inconsistency. A house where you never quite know which version of everyone was coming home. Where love and calm were available, just not reliably. Where you learned young that the fastest route to safety was making sure nobody around you was upset. A psychotherapist named Pete Walker spent years trying to figure out why perfectly functional adults were exhausted by their own relationships. What he identified was a fourth survival response that doesn't get talked about alongside fight, flight, and freeze. He called it the fawn response. When neither fighting nor fleeing feels safe, the nervous system lands on another option: appease. Become whoever the room needs. Smooth it over. Keep the peace by becoming part of it. It's the only trauma response that gets praised. Nobody's ever said, wow, incredible freeze response. 5 stars, would recommend. Fight gets punished. Flight gets noticed. Freeze gets worried about. Fawn gets called so mature. Translation: thank you for not having needs. That compliment installs quietly. And the worst part is, it worked. The charm is real. The skill is real. These kids grow up to be remarkably good at reading people, anticipating needs, keeping conversations comfortable. The exhaustion underneath all of it is also real. They just get very good at hiding that part too. Olympic-level emotional concealment. Gold medal. No ceremony. And it follows you into adulthood. 2. The invisible bill. Ask a people pleaser what they want for dinner. You could offer sushi, tacos, or a brick, and the answer is still whatever works. This is where the cost starts running. A kid who spends years with their attention pointed outward, tracking tone shifts, microfacial changes, the half-second pauses before someone's mood shifts, eventually loses reliable access to their own internal signal. The bandwidth is just always elsewhere. Ask what they actually think about something. There's a pause that has nothing to do with the difficulty of the question, and everything to do with the fact that they've been answering whatever you want since they were 9. Research links emotional neglect to alexithymia, difficulty identifying and describing your own emotions, not suppressing them, losing fluency, like being expected to read a language you were never taught. Which means, I don't mind, isn't always humility. For some people, it's the honest answer from someone whose internal language never fully developed. They're not laid back. They're disconnected from themselves, which looks adorable until you're 38 and mysteriously exhausted. And here's where that exhaustion starts costing you something real. 3. Strategic invisibility with good PR. This is the part nobody puts on Instagram, mostly because there's no caption for "talked myself out of wanting something again." People-pleasing doesn't just change behavior. Over time, it rewires the internal narrator. They get offered something good, an opportunity, a chance, an invitation. Their gut moves. And then, before that movement becomes a decision, the old algorithm fires. Will this inconvenience someone? Will this change how they see me? Is this the version of me that wants this thing gonna cause problems for the version of me that keeps things smooth? It's like having an internal PR team whose only client is everyone else. By the time the calculation finishes, the answer is maybe later, or I don't really need it, or the most expensive one, I don't actually want that anyway. personal growth, but make it self-gaslighting. They start calling it humility. Nobody stages an intervention for someone who's too agreeable. There's no reality show called Extreme Politeness, Season 4. No one gets canceled for having no needs. That's what makes this so clean. It disguises itself as virtue right up until the moment it doesn't. The problem isn't that they're too nice. It's that their attention's been rented out for decades and the lease auto-renews. The person paying is everyone except them. What looked like ease was maintenance. Constant, invisible maintenance. 4. What it does to every relationship after. This is where the invisible bill becomes an actual one. Fast forward, same person, different decade. They're in a relationship now. Partner gets upset about something small. The kind of minor friction healthy couples move through in 20 minutes. And instead of staying in their own corner of the conversation, their nervous system scans the room like it's at that dinner table again, runs its calculation, and produces the answer that keeps things smooth. They apologize, maybe for something they didn't actually do, sometimes preemptively, or they make a joke, or they go quiet and wait for the tension to pass. They do everything except say what they actually think. Research on anxious attachment shows that people who grew up in emotionally unpredictable environments don't avoid conflict because they're mature or easygoing. They avoid it because their nervous system still reads disagreement as a genuine threat to connection. The same prediction it was running at 7 years old. From the partner side, they're so understanding, so low maintenance, so easy to be with. 5-star review, low maintenance, would date again. From their side, they're the loneliest version of present. Fully in the room, completely hidden inside it. They had opinions the whole time. Strong ones. They just never let them see daylight. And the cruel part? It looks like a good relationship. No big fights, no drama. Everyone thinks they've cracked the code. What's actually happening is one person has quietly agreed to make themselves smaller in every disagreement, every decision, every moment where two preferences could have coexisted, but one got buried instead. And at some point, not dramatically, not all at once, the resentment that has nowhere to go starts finding other exits. Fatigue, withdrawal, a low-level distance neither person can fully explain. They don't blow up the relationship. They just slowly stop being in it. Like emotionally moving out, but still paying the bills. And one day, the other person says, I feel like I don't really know you. They don't have an answer because they stopped practicing having one. If this still feels theoretical, wait until you see how it plays out at your own dinner table. 5. The day they watch their kid do it. And then, at some point, they're the parent at a dinner table of their own, and they watch their kid go still when the energy shifts. Watch them offer to help when nobody asked. Watch them say, I don't mind, about something they clearly mind. Watch them scan faces the same way. You ask which movie they want. They shrug. Later, you hear them tell a friend they hated it. If you're a teenager watching this, that shrug you just did, that's not you being chill. That's you being careful. Something cold lands, the specific feeling of recognizing yourself in someone you love and knowing exactly what it cost you to be like that. You didn't break the cycle. You refined it. You made it look effortless, which is why it's so easy to pass on. Children don't learn emotional language from what parents say. They learn it from what parents do in real time. The parent who smiles through discomfort, who never says, actually, I don't want to, who apologizes first in every argument, even when they're right, whose face rearranges itself into fine, even when it isn't. Their kid watches that face, files it, starts practicing it. And the worst part, the parent can see it happening and still can't fully stop it because the pattern runs faster than the awareness does. The kid didn't catch it. They inherited it the same way it was handed down. 6. Why unlearning feels worse than the pattern. Here's the part nobody warned you about. This is where people quit. Every time you say what you actually want, your nervous system fires. Not as a metaphor. Physically, there's a signal that reads, "Danger, you're being difficult, you're going to lose them." That alarm isn't broken. It was calibrated for a childhood that needed it. The problem isn't that it's dramatic. It's running 1987 software in 2026. You asked for Thai food and your body thinks you started a coup. That spike in your chest, that's old wiring, not present danger. You just expressed a preference. Terrifying, I know. Here's what the research actually says. The nervous system doesn't update based on insight. It doesn't care that you understand it now. It updates based on repeated experience. Specifically, tiny moments of saying what you need and discovering the relationship survives anyway. The brain runs a prediction. The connection holds. The alarm gets a little quieter. You do it again. Slightly less terrifying. That's the whole mechanism, which means the unlearning isn't a breakthrough conversation. It isn't a realization in a therapy's office at 42 where everything clicks into place and you walk out fixed. It's practice. Boring, repetitive, deeply unsexy practice. The kind that feels enormous the first several times because you've genuinely never done it before. Start with the "I don't mind" moments. Not the big ones, just the next one. Ask honestly, do I actually not mind, or am I just avoiding what happens if I do? Say what you'd prefer. Stay in the room. That's it. That's the whole exercise. The goal isn't to become someone who always knows what they want and says it confidently. The goal is to give your nervous system enough evidence, enough small moments where you said the thing and nobody left. That honesty and connection stop feeling like they can't exist in the same room. They can. You just don't have proof yet. 7. What you're actually putting down. The kid at that dinner table wasn't weak. They were adaptive. They read the room and they survived it. That's a nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. That's not a failure. That's survival working. The only problem with survival strategies is they don't come with expiration dates. No recall notice, no software update, no notification that says, "Hey, the thing keeping you safe at 9 is making you miserable at 34. They just keep running, flagging threats that aren't there, smoothing over conflicts that needed to happen, quieting needs that deserved to be heard. Survival strategies don't expire on their own. They get handed down, unless someone interrupts them on purpose. The pattern doesn't die with you. It learns your kid's voice, and it keeps going unless you're the one who stops it. That's exactly what this video breaks down. The way kids learn, they have to earn love. It picks up right where this one ends.